To the 2022 State of the School. I think before we get started though, I'd really like to just take a moment to introduce individuals in the room who I'm not sure we all have a face to go with the name or even know the right name. So we have school board members with us today. I'm going to ask them to stand up so that we can be familiar with who our school board members are. Mrs. Dobson, if you want to come up and introduce them, I'll introduce you as the president of the school board, and then you might be a little bit better at explaining what their parts are.
Yeah, we are all, it's a team effort this year. So there are 7 of us on the board. Again, I'm Faith Dobson. I think most of you know me. Daughter in 6th grade. We have Kristen Beecher here in the front. Rachel Appleby. John Reisenweber. John Alfanin, who also sits on our Parish Finance Council. And we have Trish Banker. And Amy Day. Like, we do have roles. As I said, I'm the chair. Amy serves as our secretary this year. John valiantly stays on as our finance chair. And then from a communications, facilities, anything else that needs to be done, the team has just really made a collective effort this year. So I want to thank all of them for being here. And it's good to put some names to faces for everyone. So thank you.
I think that was important to do. Yeah, thank you. These are volunteer individuals who come together and work for the good of St. Joseph's School. So we're grateful that they're here tonight. We're grateful that they do all that they do for us. So this is an effort that's come out of a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, we were doing the sustainability study across York County, Catholic schools, more like the deanery of the Catholic schools, and we decided that this was a good follow-up. We should continue to kind of reach out on a yearly basis just to let our school community know pretty much who we are, what we're doing, how we're doing, so that we can continue to build a really strong Catholic education system here in York. So what's great about this year is we're back in person. Last year we did this virtually, like we did so many things last year. So we're very grateful, first of all, that we can be together, and that so many of you who support our school so fervently did come out and help us. So we'll be hearing from a number of other supporter school board members and other members of the community who helped do a lot of things for St. Joseph's School. But before we get started, as with all things, we'd like Father to offer a prayer for us, if he would. I can offer prayer, and then Father can certainly come up and say a few words, because I think therein lies, the goodness of a community, and that is in its leader. And so I certainly want Father to be recognized for that. So if we could, just a prayer for Catholic schools, which our focus is tonight. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord of learning, we take this time to thank you for the gift of all Catholic school communities, and especially ours at St. Joseph's. For young children in pre-K to working professionals in Catholic institutions of higher education, may all look for opportunities to bring your good news into the world. May the gospel be proclaimed within our walls at St. Joseph's School, and may all community members grow in faith, hope, and love that originate in you alone. Encourage those facing difficulties, gladden those in need of joy, and provide the gift of humility to those who try to rely on just themselves rather than on your holy power. May all Catholic schools unite in our common mission to evangelize in both word and deed. We ask this in the name of Jesus, who is Lord of this school and of all. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you. Father?
Thank you, Mrs. Zach, and welcome to all of you who are here this evening, and those who cannot be here but will hopefully listen to what we have to say this evening. Just the other day, I met with the teachers to go over some things, and I told them then that, I was so very, very proud of the group that we have here, teacher staff, we at St. Joseph's School. What is it that differentiates us than the other schools, if you will? It's because from the principal on down, the staff, teachers, see this work that we're doing here at St. Joseph's not just as a job that gets paid for, but as a ministry. A ministry after Jesus Christ. We're all called, each one of us, to a mission. Our school has a mission to kind of raise our children to be future disciples of Jesus Christ in our world that needs the example of Christ so very much. As you know how broken we all are in so many ways. And we need healing. And that healing is only going to come when we imitate the love of our Lord Jesus Christ. And our principal, our staff, our teachers, our board, we're all focused on that one mission, to bring the love of Christ in our school, in our classrooms, so that when our kids leave here, they will be infused by the love of Christ to bring them into our broken world. Where do we look for that? The cross. The cross, we can look at it as suffering, but we also can look at it as an instrument of love. This year of the pandemic has been a cross for us in many ways. Suffering, yes, but also love. Just think of what we have done in our family, the sacrifice that you parents have made along with teachers, but it was a sacrifice of love. And that's, if you look across our faces, the little kiddos' faces in our school, they reflect that love that each of you give them. As parents, as teachers, as staff, they reflect that goodness. And so I can truly say that despite all the sufferings, this pandemic, all it has done for the negativity, there's been some very good positives. And we can take that with us, build on that as we move St. Joseph's School into a much brighter future as disciples of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Father. So we'll follow a little plan here, and I'll pretty much just present some things about what's happening in the school. Mr. Alfano has agreed to share a little bit of the financial information. Mrs. Baker's here. She'll talk to us a little bit about the development in our school and the advancement efforts that we keep at all the time. And then Mrs. Dobson and Mrs. Beecher will address you regarding the surveys that we took back in the fall, and just kind of glean some information from there, explain a little bit about how those results came out. So, in the 2 years that have passed at St. Joe's, like the rest of the world, we faced that unprecedented situation of COVID-19, worldwide pandemic. We've been there, done it, we get it, okay? But our school, as I talk to other schools and to other educators, even outside the Catholic community, we've endured, and I dare say we have been strengthened by the challenges and the fluctuations and the benefits that came with it. So while we've experienced pivot after pivot to our rules and our routines and our protocols and our comfort levels, we have always made sure that we remain focused on the true purpose of why St. Joseph's School exists, and that is our mission. It's definitely good to periodically go back and return to that mission statement so that we don't forget why we're here. So just wondering, can anybody recite our mission statement for us? I bet there's a few faculty who could probably do that. We share it quite frequently in writing, but just like other things like that, it can suddenly be like wallpaper, and we just kind of pass it by, and we don't really pay as much attention as perhaps that we should. So we really want to just take a moment to go back, read over our mission statement that St. Joseph's School is an educational community with Jesus as its cornerstone. We educate the whole child. We do it through academic excellence, faith preparation, and through the Roman Catholic tradition. And we want our students to serve as disciples of Christ in a greater world. And we say global world, but even just outside our doors is global. If it's outside our national borders, global too. So what we'd like to do is just take a moment to reflect on some of the most important ideals that are in that statement. And the first one is community. So community is defined as with unity, togetherness. The actions that we do here day in, day out over the course of the year always reflect togetherness in which we approach our efforts. So that parent and school relationship is imperative here at our school, and in any school, but especially here. And we will hear that word over and over and over again from parents and families who are sharing their thoughts and appreciations. The word community continues to rise to the top. So we're a community, and we have a leader, and that leader is Jesus. So he's the one who's here to show us how to live, how to love, how to give. We give attention to the whole child in our academics and in faith formation. So that means we're not just worrying about the intellectual, we have the social, the emotional, the physical, but most importantly, we have the spiritual qualities in our students that we're focusing on. So that is very important. It's in the middle of the whole thing, kind of the meat of the sandwich, and it is certainly the most integral part of what we do. And we do it while we're celebrating in our Roman Catholic doctrine and traditions of faith. I sit sometimes and just, I've been to other churches and they're lovely, nice things are said, great songs are sung, but there's just still something when I sit in our Catholic Church and just look at all of the beautiful rituals and traditions that we have. It is awe-inspiring. So that the Roman Catholic tradition is kind of top in what we do. We make sure that everything is pretty much focused in that, and all consideration is given to that when we're planning and celebrating things with our students. And of course, our goal is to send these little people out someday a little bit bigger than little, and then hopefully as they carry their journey on, they'll take what they've learned here, and they go wherever they go, whenever they go, however they go, they do it in the name of Christ. It's going to be a while. We always call ourselves, we're the planters. Elementary school teachers are the planters. We don't usually get to see the harvest. We usually just keep dropping the seeds and planting, but we know that we're planting good seeds in good soil so that we'll have a great harvest someday, even if we're not there to see it. So, three components that are really used to measure here in the diocese, mostly the vitality of Catholic education, are strong Catholic identity, academic excellence, and financial viability. You may have heard that before. So that's kind of what we're here to do tonight, is to share a picture of St. Joseph's that shows that we're building on a very solid ground to build strengths in these three areas. So we will begin with, first and foremost, the most important part. Okay? Our Catholic identity. It's shaped by many experiences that we offer our students. We give our families opportunities, the parish community, and we're all focused on the way of Christ. So through instruction and celebration, we offer our students daily opportunities to know, to love, and to serve God and neighbors. This year we dedicated our prayer focus to our patron saint, St. Joseph. So the students are praying throughout the day, school-wide, class-wide, and even personally in Eucharistic adoration when they're with their class but by themselves, so to speak, with Jesus, asking for the blessings of the virtues of St. Joseph. So for many years we've had a virtue program where children are learning about what the virtues look like, how do I act, what should I say in the context of this virtue. This year we chose to look to St. Joseph and reflect his virtues. And so that's what the children are doing within themselves. But this year we've taken it a little bit beyond that, a little twist to it. And we've asked them to go out into their lives and find individuals who also emulate those virtues. And then we ask them to bring those people to us and celebrate a Mass with us. So most of them are father figures, and the light of St. Joseph being the foster father of Jesus. But it wouldn't have to be But what's great about it is kiddos are taking a little bit of focus off themselves and looking outward. So Beyond Themselves is a good place for them to look. So Mass, weekly Mass, I consider, and hope that many others do, consider it the single most important hour that we spend together in the week. Eucharist being the source and summit of our faith, that's what we're trying to teach our little ones. To me, that's a kind of a non-negotiable. Now, is it possible that we would have to miss Mass or it isn't scheduled? Yes, it's possible when you get a snow day or something like that. But it is still, if there's ever any question, no, we can do Mass. And not just weekly Mass, but then there are occasions throughout the year for the holy days and other celebration days that we can get together and celebrate Mass. The great thing here is it doesn't just stop after that hour. The kiddos bring that, the prayers, the homily, the words, the readings back, and they reflect on them. The Knights of Columbus have gifted our classrooms with Mass journals for the children. And so they come back and they continue to think about what they heard in the presence of Jesus in the sacrament. So it's really tying together our school, tying together Mass and the faith with the kids. It's just a constant going back to Jesus. So the other thing that we're going to be doing this year for at least our sixth graders, I think I got this right, Mrs. Doyle, is we're going to offer them an off-campus opportunity for retreat. We had to close all of that down with COVID. Everything just kind of stopped and everybody stopped going places and places stopped offering the opportunity to get there. So we're hoping to do that for sixth grade this year and then into next year kind of reopen that to our other classes who have had retreat experiences before. And so we want to offer them the opportunity to go beyond our little walls here to a place where they might not normally have visited and have a wonderful spiritual experience. So during COVID, the teachers did a fabulous job of trying to provide a time, a retreat time. But kiddos were kind of in one place at one spot. I'm sure it didn't feel as much to them as hard as the teachers worked at creating this lovely retreat time away from the regular work, away from the regular schedule. But the effort was made, and I thought it was great. I enjoyed it very much. I got to see, there was some different adoration was in there, and there was videos about saints and things like that. So all very wonderful. So in academics, okay, we've got a new initiative in our school this year, and that's our math program. iReady, there was this research for a year. We came together as a faculty, determined that was a good way to go because we knew that we need to focus on improving some of our math performance kind of across the board for all of our students. So we employed this new program. It has a different kind of approach, allowing students to, I actually look at it as a friendlier way to approach math. It's almost as I'm going in and watching teachers present their lessons. It's kind of a focus I have this year for watching. It's a social activity. It kind of almost feels a little social. They're in there because part of the learning is to talk about how I understand this concept, how I got to my understanding of this number sense or this concept in math. And so the kids are having this discourse session and they're talking, almost like little people, grown-ups. Well, I don't really agree. That's not how that worked for me. I really liked it better when we did it this way. So it was really, I love how it's very social, but that being said, it also is very concrete. It moves very concretely into those abstract concepts in math. So iReady is definitely a step in the right direction. We are, I believe, going to see some very good achievement. It's not something that happens overnight, but we're looking for some good growth as we move forward. The thing that I think is going to really help turn some of our struggling learners around is that iReady comes with an individualized study practice session. That is, it's an online activity. It's customized to their individual needs. They receive a diagnostic, and then the program that they're going to use is designed to specifically meet their needs, not the kiddo next to them, not 6 more kids in the class, but specifically them. So that even the best teacher in the world, and with the best intentions in the world, would find that almost impossible to be able to manage, but through this, we were excited to be able to do that for our kids. We also combine that with our new initiative. You may have remembered FUN from before we had to close for the pandemic. The younger students in the primary grades were doing firing up your neurons and working on some very specific literacy skills, phonemic awareness, phonics skills, and things to build up their foundational reading skills. So we kind of expanded that out this year. We turned it into math now. So now we have a separate program for our little ones called Math Minds. And in the upper hall, they also have moved to that type of a learning opportunity for their kiddos called Level Up. So the bigger kids meet twice a week, half an hour, work on specific math skills geared to their level. This is not, I'm sitting in a class with this many levels, but I'm in a group that we're all focused pretty much right here. And that is kind of the point of gathering these small learning groups, is so we can move faster from skill to skill, because we're all moving pretty much at the same rate, rather than I'm getting a little bit behind because everybody else in my class is getting ahead of me. So we're working very much to maybe not individualize it, but put it at least within grasp of their understanding. So the littler guys for Math Minds meet 4 times a week for 30 minutes. So it should be a really helpful opportunity for them to gain lots of, specific improvements right where they need them. We used the assessments that we give the kiddos normally. We use their STAR assessments. We use the iReady diagnostic. For some of the literacy, we use their DIBBLE scores. So we use a multitude of different data points to kind of group these kiddos. And it's flexible. If a little kiddo gets into a group and they start moving faster than we might have expected that they would.
Finally, a recap of why our school wouldn't be complete without a mention of the dedicated teacher. So they, for 2 years, it's constant change, it's readjusting schedules, it's riding this roller coaster of frustrations and joys and never knowing what tomorrow's going to bring, constant unknown. So that, that plays a little bit on our psyche as we go. But these individuals have guided our little children in light of technology difficulties, high student absenteeism rates, illness, concern for their own health. Here's their favorite: speaking through a mask and trying to listen through a mask. That's just been a joy for all of us. So they've been giving and giving and giving and giving, and still they're not done giving. That's the beauty of it. They continue to give themselves as professional learners. So this year, we focused on doing some leadership skills and team building skills, and we used the book Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. If you know of her, she's a renowned business consultant in the business world. She has a pretty large following out there, but we used one of her books and a consultant to guide us through some of her very good strategies to kind of just become better listeners to one another, better leaders to one another, and just generally more courageous as teachers that we are. So the other professional learning that teachers is a math program that's taken a lot of hours and a lot of training, and they sat in on days when everybody else had like a day off, and they came in on their day off and sat through training. So it just speaks to their dedication and feeling obliged to be here to learn these things. And another initiative that Mrs. Eck kind of asked, another big ask from them, was to consider what they were asking their students to do. So many of your children are involved in a book challenge of some sort, maybe some of them. The upper hall is doing a 40-book challenge. The littler kids might only be in a 10 or 20-book challenge. And the idea is to expand their repertoires of what kind of books they choose to read. And so, thinking about that, I considered, well, professional books are all over the place, and some of us can always learn something new from a new book. And so I asked the teachers if they would take a 3-book challenge for the year. So Professional books are a lot heavier to read though than fun little novels and graphic novels that the kids are reading. But, so I know it was a big ask. We used the Dare to Lead as one of them, so that kind of got us through that. But I've asked them to be accountable by just sharing the information that we learned in this learning piece. And I just, I go in and check there's a little form that they fill out and talk about what it is that drew them to this particular book, and what are they learning, and is it something that should be shared? Is this something that all teachers, that we could share at faculty meetings and learn? So tons of lifelong learners on our faculty, and they are doing a fabulous job of making themselves better people so that they can make your children better learners. So I have to say that St. Joseph's is not just surviving this pandemic, we've pulled ourselves together and we are thriving, as I see it. So we're daring to open new doors and reflect on what it is we need to do to become an even stronger program. And we are not stopping. So I'm going to take a little break here and let Mr. Alfano kind of speak to you about some financial pieces, and then we'll continue on. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming out to the state of the schools. I'm going to jump to the end. The finances are good, so you can all relax. As an accountant that does this for a living, I can say they're good because I look on and I look for two things. I look for predictability and consistency, and I can see that in these finances, which you take the mouse.
I'm tired.
Oh, you're gonna, okay.
Do it?
Fine. Anyway, so I looked at predictability and consistency, which we'll see in a minute. I'm an advisor on the board for the finances, and I look at the job. There may be an allegory that is not for the audience, but you may get my point. I look at it as a driving teacher for my kid. I'm in the passenger seat as an advisor. I tell stories. I make sure that we're going straight. Sometimes it's bumpy, sometimes it's rough, but sometimes you have to overcorrect, sometimes you're over the line. But if you make it to the end and you get out and everybody is alive, then you turn around and you go back for the next year. So again, predictability and consistency. So the budget is developed around March, and it's a collaborative budget through partnerships with the school, with the administration, with the board, with the church, with the diocese, and it is developed with formulas and developed with predictability that you want to plan for what is going to happen next year. So we do that with enrollment, we do that with expenses, and as you can see, the two parts of the budget, the revenue, the driver is tuition, and in expenses, the driver is personal costs, salary benefits. Okay, so those are the two drivers that are the tenets that you need to forecast, and they complement each other. You need to have enough teachers to facilitate all the students that are enrolled. So, as you can see on the board, we have last year's budget and this year's budget. The one thing you'll see, which I've been doing this for about 3 years, and the one thing you'll see which you haven't seen in the past is they look really similar. The numbers from 21 as compared to the numbers from 22 are really, really close. That is predictability, that is consistency, meaning that our school is operating similarly from last year to this year in enrollment and in support. Now, the other thing you'll see is that expenses are greater than the budget. That is by design, because the partnership we have with the church and with the diocese is that tuition is not a full cost tuition. It costs more to educate the students completely than what we charge. So it is not a, quote, balanced budget, but by design and with collaboration with the finances of the church has a budget line of how much support they're going to provide. So at the end of the day, if we were over budget, if we spend more and take in less, it is more on the hook for the church. So we want to, from a financial perspective, meet the revenue expenses so that we don't overburden the church. So that is our plan moving forward. Second half of our budget is how we guess. How our plan works out. So this is on the 21 side is actual expenses and revenues from last year, as compared to 22 this year, the forecast through the end of the year, June. And that forecast is based on actual numbers from December, moving forward for the next 6 months. And as you can see, 21 versus 22, they look really similar. So again, that's the predictability that the expenses and the revenues that actually occurred matched the budget that we predicted. So consistency and predictability is validated. That's how I state that our finances are good. The surplus at the bottom matches really closely to what the church has prescribed in their budget that they're going to cover. So again, they're happy that they're not being overburdened and that our revenues and our expenses are meeting our forecasts and matching our budget. Next year, I expect it to be, again, similar to what we've seen for the last 2 years. Enrollment is strong, and again, it's a partnership between parents and staff and administration and the parish. And the communication and the working together is a good partnership, and I hope it continues through hard work, dedication, and communication. Thank you.
Good news. I'm ever grateful for Mr. Alfano and all of the other gentlemen, I'm sure, that work, in partnership to keep track of all of that. I'll be vulnerable here, not my forte. So that's a faculty thing, learning to be vulnerable. What I do want to say is, Mr. Alfano mentioned that, what it actually costs to educate a student is not always reflective of what parents are paying in tuition. And it kind of breaks out in this way. So this past year, these numbers reflect what the year that we're currently in, what it costs. And the first financial benefit that comes from the church is, or that comes from the school, the church and the school, is $922. That's across the board. Every child who enrolls here immediately gets that off that tuition, that cost of educating. And then our Catholic families and members of other Catholic parishes are gifted another additional discount beyond that. So for this year, the tuition was a standard $4,400 if you were a Catholic student here at school. So I look at big numbers like that. It's kind of like when you get your prescription filled, you're going, oh man, that's a lot of money. But if you say, oh, well, that's less than a cup of coffee a day, then it doesn't seem to be as much of a sting, when you're looking at a big number. So when you look at $25 a day and what your child is benefiting from that $25 a day, it's a pretty reasonable and fair amount of money. Now, that being said, our families are able to benefit from some other opportunities because help is available for anyone. No one will be told, you can't come to St. Joseph's School because you don't have that money. There are opportunities and ways for us to help families who want to be here. And so we have been working towards that. Mrs. Baker will go a little bit into some of these
areas, but the top two that you see there, they're based on need, so we need to produce some documents that indicate actual need. I encourage everybody to go ahead and apply for those. If you think, well, I'm not gonna be accepted, that's fine. I understand that thinking, but you just never know when, you know, they change every year, they change the eligibility numbers, and so it's, you know, something to think about, at least making the effort. And then the ones that we apply to, keep in mind that some of these, new family referrals, script, some of these benefit not just you, but benefit other students too, so it's kind of neighbor helping neighbor. So it's definitely a bargain in the end, because there's nothing you're gonna do for your children for the rest of your life that will benefit them more than giving them a great education. It's not something that, you know, can be repossessed, it's theirs forever. And so if you're gonna invest in something, they are certainly definitely, they're it. They are what we invest in. So, Mrs. Baker, if you would like to come and share some of the important things that you do. Mrs. Baker works like behind the scenes, and we don't see her a whole lot, but she gets amazing things done.
Hello, thank you for being here tonight. I know it's dark and cold, and I appreciate that you all have a lot going on, so it means a lot that you are all here, definitely supporting your students. My name is Christy Baker. I work part-time as a development director here at St. Joe's. I'm an alumni, and I have a son in 5th grade. My roles involve admissions, enrollment, fundraising, and communications and marketing. So I don't have time to go into all of that, but I'm going to give you a 30,000 view, thank you, of some of the things that I do here. So supporting St. Joseph's School.
Just spin this wheel there.
There we go. So just talking about supporting the school, the student handbook is a wonderful resource. I even go back to it now, but I read through it as a new parent, and it has all the information you'll need to get your student here safe, on time, what to do if they're sick, what they can wear, everything's in there. In the Loop comes out every Tuesday. It has a ton of information, and if you're not reading it, you will miss things. I had people come up to me and say they didn't know about the talent show. It's in the Loop. It's definitely in the Loop. Volunteer opportunities. Most of you, I can see in this crowd, have been here a long time, so you know, kitchen, lunchroom, recess, every day we are always needing volunteers. The kids love seeing their special people here, so please consider coming in to volunteer. And family activities, I can tell you what's coming up. We have indoor golf that's coming up at the end of February. We'll have an Easter egg hunt. We have a daddy-daughter activity planned in the spring, Race for Education. So those are all activities. Oh, talent show is next week. You can come and see the students showcase their talents. And then script program. I know a lot of you are already part of this, but the really, really top level is you're leaving money on the table if you're not participating in script. You buy gift cards with a credit card, so you're getting your points or money back on your credit card. You get the gift cards that you need and use, and you get a percentage back that comes right off your tuition. So that being said, if you need more information, definitely let me know. It's very, very simple. All right, so let me talk about admissions a little bit. I do a lot with admissions, and I'm doing a ton of tours right now, mainly kindergarten tours. The best recruiters are in this room, and they're the ones that get the family referrals. You all sell the school. You do. I don't sell it. But if they're coming to my door, it's because they've already heard from you what a great place this is and how happy your children are here. So thank you for that. Please continue to do that by word of mouth, to friends and family, on social media. I recently put out a request to have testimonials. If you're willing to give me a testimonial, I can use that in marketing. But really, it's going to come organically from you. That's the best marketing we have. We're always looking for connections to preschools. Recently, or in the past few years, I've gone out and invited them to our Easter egg hunt. We have story times that they can come to. It's a great way for me to get into or in front of parents who already value their education, that they're sending their children to preschool. So if you have a connection to a preschool, I'd love to know about that. Fundraising, we've just talked about it. The cost to educate is about $6,400 and your tuition is about $4,400. So there's a gap there and it needs to be filled somehow. We do many different fundraisers, but the two main ones are our annual appeal. That's a letter that goes out to parishioners and families. That went out in September, and then we'll send another follow-up letter in the coming month. Then we'll have our indoor golf. That goes also to this large pot, this annual appeal pot. And then we have Race for Education. And I'm looking around the room. I think you all know what Race for Education is. We don't have very many new parents in this room, but it's really important that you share your contacts with us. A letter goes out from your children. Your children get to have a wonderful day. It's also Grandparents' Day. We've raised a lot of money for the school. It's just a really good, feel-good fundraiser. Scholarships. So I know we talked about many of the scholarships. What I wanted to talk about directly are special purpose entities, which are, it's a tax, it's a way to guide your taxes to come back as scholarships for the school. So if you're living in the state of Pennsylvania and you're an individual with an income over 200,000 or a couple with joint income over 300,000, you are eligible for these tax credits, meaning you benefit and the school benefits. If that's something that you're interested in, I would love to talk to you more about those. If you have your own company, it's called EITC. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Again, they come back as you direct your tax dollars from Pennsylvania to come back for scholarships for our students. It's really important and it affects many families here that might not be able to afford Catholic education without them. And then finally, I'll talk about the external communications that I use. We use parent ambassadors in the grades. I find that even though information is in the loop, sometimes it's better if it comes from a peer. Maybe they'll open an email from a peer better. So that's where, if information needs to come quickly, or if it's really important and I really want to get it in front of your eyes, you'll see it from parent ambassadors. They're great. They're so helpful. And I'm sure to you too, if you have questions, you can always go to them. They're usually in the know. We send out press releases to local media, the Catholic Witness, and other churches in the deanery on a regular basis. I also use social media. I create an annual impact report that comes out in the fall. It was included in the bulletin. It does a snapshot of the school. It tells us how we did last year, highlighting most of the information that you're learning about tonight. It's also a marketing piece to thank donors and for transparency purposes. And then just to go back to stories, quotes, anecdotes, if there are things that happen in the school that your child has a positive experience about, I would love to hear that and to share that out with our community. One of my personal favorites is when my daughter came here in first grade. She was in the office collecting papers or something, and it started snowing, and her eyes got really big, and the nurse said, "Would you like to go outside and taste the snow?" And she said, "Yeah, I would." So she took her outside, and she got up, and she got to, just play in the snow for a minute, not even a minute, I'm sure, and come back inside, and I will tell that story forever about this school, because we see your little people. We know when they're not having a good day. We know when they're having a great day, or they want to share about their cheer competition, or they're really excited about something they're doing. So this school does a wonderful job of seeing them for who they are, and I love that. So another thing that I've asked about for your reviews, if you're willing to spend some time, Google's a good one, Facebook, Niche, Yelp, private school review, any of them that you're willing to give a review for. I know that a lot of new parents do look at them. We have a lot of parents that come in through our website, so they've obviously reviewed these websites and know a little bit about us. That's all I have. Thank you.
That may only sound like all, but that's a whole lot. And I thank Chrissy for the work that she does. She is tireless and, spends a lot of time, bringing the people that you send to us, as she said, it is true. We get a lot of people who come in and say, well, so-and-so's here, and they told us how great it is, and so that's what we need to do. We need to go out and, be evangelizers, okay, of our own little writing. So, we're going to close now. I just would like to personally and publicly thank the individuals kind of sitting on the side of the room here. This is the Square Squad. This is the Square Squad over here. So, these are individuals who absolutely dedicate not just the minutes of the school day to your children, but many, many minutes and hours beyond the day. I just want to offer my profound thanks to all of you for what you do every day. You float my boat, so, you know, I can't get up and come in here every day if I don't know I have a great group of people. You're talented, you're intelligent, you're professional, okay? So you come with this, okay, we can do that, you know, kind of a spirit. I know how the days get bogged down some days, but we always seem to be able to find new and creative ways. I think there's something in the wind coming up. So they're an extraordinarily holy group of people, and they deserve our deepest respect and appreciation. So this Catholic Schools Week, only a few days away, I just encourage you and your children just to reach out, take a moment, thank them for what they do every day. They're creating disciples in the name of Christ for you. So, thank you. Thank you. And thank all of you for your kind attention. Just God bless you for coming and taking the interest in St. Joe's and being here and listening. So if there's ever any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here. We can hopefully answer your questions, and if we can't, we will figure out a way to find an answer to your questions. So if there are any in the room at the moment that anybody would like to ask about, anything you heard and wondered about, happy. I'm not sure anybody else who's here. Wait a minute, we're not done yet. Wait a minute, we're not done yet. Never mind. I'm so sorry. Here I am saying thank you because my wonderful teachers. I'm leaving now, okay? And Mrs. Dobson and Mrs. Keenan, who are going like fleshy eyes. I'm sorry. We do have a wonderful information coming. It's been a long day, and I thank you for understanding. And I thank you anyhow. And I can thank you again. Does you have a mouth up there?
No, that's fine. I'm gonna pull my mask down just because sometimes I have a tendency to talk fast and then things get muffled.
Yeah.
So, hi everyone. My name is Kristen Beecher. I am on the school board. New member this year. I have a daughter in first grade with Ms. Whitehurt, and I also have another daughter coming in next year as a kindergartner. And I have a third daughter who 5 years from now, she'll be here, so I'll keep them coming anyhow. I'm here today to talk to you about the NCEA survey that was done back in the fall. So obviously, I just want to go through for the non-marketers in the room. I am a marketer by trade. I am a product of the Catholic school system, if you care to know that. I went to St. Rose when it was on King Street. I then went to your Catholic, and then I chose a Jesuit education at St. Joe's in Philadelphia. And then I got an MBA at another Jesuit institution, University of Scranton. So I have not strayed too far from the Catholic academia. But just to do a quick rundown for you, obviously with the survey that was given, if you remember, it was given to students, 5th and 6th graders here at St. Joseph's School, and then it was also given to parents, faculty, staff, our pastor, and the board. And in some cases, teachers who might also be parents could have taken it, board members who are also parents could have taken it twice, obviously putting on a different hat each time they took it. But with that in mind, there's obviously a purpose and a methodology. The purpose of that was to gain the feedback from the people who are affected by St. Joseph's School, and then understanding with that, and understanding the purpose of that, and taking a methodology approach of what are the results, and what does that translate when it comes to developing meaningful recommendations. And what we mean by that is, how are we going to take what might be a pro or a con and turn that into a positive, or keep the positives moving. And lastly, the Net Promoter Score, which you may or may not, as a consumer, have heard of in the past, is a question that you often might see, even if you've taken one as a consumer, and the question always is, would you recommend blank to a friend or colleague? And in this case, it was, would you recommend St. Joseph's School to family, friend, colleague, etc. So that's really why we're talking about this today. So in breaking this down, so I'm going to show you 3 slides. This is the first one. And with a Net Promoter Score, you have a scale of -100 to 100. And the score itself, when you are asked as the survey taker, is anywhere from 0 to 10. Your 0 to 6 is people that are called detractors. They're people that clearly have issue or take issue with maybe giving you as a recommendation, and they simply don't support, you know, what St. Joseph School is all about. Your passives are the people who score a 7 or an 8, so think of those people as more of an on-the-fence type person. I don't necessarily dislike St. Joseph School, but they're not exactly, you know, a #1 priority in my mind. And then lastly, you have your promoters. Those are the people that are going to give you a 9 or a 10 out of 10. So those are your ambassadors for the school, and that's obviously what we always try to achieve and strive for, is parents, faculty, staff, anyone who takes that survey, even the students, they're going to want to answer, you know, yes, I recommend 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Does that make sense to everyone? It's pretty straightforward, but then when you start to dive into the math and statistics of it all, it really gets a little hairy, because you can really go down a rabbit hole in terms of breaking apart the segmentation. You know, you can go by geographic location, you can go by demographics, you can go by title, age, gender, you name it, it's been done. And that really helps as marketers, and even as the board, as we looked at the feedback that was given, and being able to understand, you know, what is our action plan moving forward, you know, today, tomorrow, and in the new year. So in this case, in taking part of all the parents and students that were part of this Net Promoter Score, one of the last questions on the survey, you can see here that we have a group of promoters, we have our passives, and we have our detractors. So putting on your mathematician hat here, the number to the left of the percentages is the actual number of people who scored, you know, a 0 through 10. And then obviously with the percentages taking out of the total average of everyone in that group. And then the scale to the right that you might see is, well, why is it -100 to 100? Because the hope is, by taking a mathematical approach, you take the promoters and subtract the detractors. Because the people who are on the fence, in essence, they don't matter at that point. And so but we'll come back to that later. So in this case, when you take the total Net Promoter Score of the parents and the students who took the survey, we ended up at a 33. Now you're probably wondering, okay, is that a good or a bad thing? Well, just for reference, in the world of academia, anything above a 30 in education is considered good. So we are on the right path, is ultimately what you probably want to hear from me. And just for reference, this is a benchmark that depends on an industry. So education versus, say, cable television. A 22 is good in the cable television world. Think of Comcast and all those other cable service providers. On the flip side, you have an airline industry, a 75 is considered really good. And then, of course, you can dive below a 0, and that's obviously not where you ever want to be. Anything under a 0 in the negative, you obviously have some work to do. So try to keep that in mind when looking at this. It's not a 0 to 100 scale. There's always a probability that you're going to fall below that ultimately, because if you have more detractors than you have promoters, well then clearly that tells you that that's going to be a negative number. So here again, you'll see the parents and the students, and then we'll flip right to the parents, and you can see how that mean average jumps up to a 73, because not that we're discounting the opinions of our 5th and 6th graders, but really when it comes to moving the school forward in the way that I think all of us are here tonight for, you're going to see that clearly we are definitely moving in the right direction as a school, because when you take out the students of that and you look at parents, you know, faculty, staff, the pastor, clearly that score is going to jump up. So there's really not much more to explain here other than when you take out the kiddos, you know, we're certainly moving in the right direction with or without them. And this next slide is a bit of a chuckle, so bear with me. Oh, I went backwards. And yeah, so they had a little bit of a tough time, I think, in understanding the purpose of that survey, which goes back to my original comment about methodology. Clearly, you want to still include the students in that survey, and the reason for that is twofold. They're the ones that, aside from the teachers, faculty, and staff, they're on the front lines. They're receiving that education and that choice that you as a parent had made in sending them here. So some of the comments I can remember from some of the kids were, oh, better school lunches, more recess, you know, things of that nature. So it's not necessarily top of mind, but I imagine as they grow and age and develop, you know, if you're Catholic, for example, were to do a survey like this, I'd be very interested to see, you know, what that pans out to be, because obviously priorities change as you age. So that is really my segment that I wanted to be able to talk about to you today. So does anyone have any questions on this? Have Faith come up and talk about the next section on the summary and takeaways of the survey.
All right, so, you know, as Kristen so eloquently discussed, you know, kind of the purpose and the methodology behind the survey, you know, I think at the end of the day, we want to see, you know, are we moving in the right direction? From our Net Promoter Score, we see indeed that we are. And this summary essentially kind of looks at that piece with sort of the 1 to 5 ratings. You see all the questions where, you know, 1 was, you know, strongly disagree the whole way through 5, which is strongly agree, where you kind of had your neutral in the middle. You know, so when we say that stakeholders surveyed were generally satisfied, that means the ratings were those 4s and 5s, majority across the board. And I'm not speaking statistically significantly, but that said, it's those 4s and 5s, what kind of in the market research world you'd call kind of the top 2 box. That's what you're looking to get. Those are the buzzwords, and that's, frankly, if you look across our results, where we fared. You know, that said, you know, as always, there's always room to improve. So we did identify some of those areas, and, you know, I know many of you have seen Mrs. X's survey. You know, the board took a lot of time at our most recent board meeting, and then we took time individually kind of doing our homework, studying the satisfaction scores, studying the individual kind of free text feedback that everyone was able to provide so that we could see trends. We could hopefully try to get to the heart of what was on everyone's minds in terms of what you thought were positives, maybe areas for improvement. So, you know, at the end of the day, we'll go into some of those in the coming slides, but, you know, what we can confidently say, and then I think from what you've seen here tonight, is that your school leadership really truly does remain committed to the health and vitality and success of the school. So from a theme perspective, you know, there were a lot of positives. You know, some of these should be kind of self-explanatory. We obviously have a very strong Catholic identity in our school, you know, centered around our mission. I have to say, a new task to memorize and be able to recite the mission, because I can't. You know, our faculty and staff, which I could easily, you know, list you all at the top. And I always kind of say that, you know, you are the heartbeat of our institution. You know, so many, I don't think I ever saw so many superlatives in a survey in terms of individual feedback regarding our faculty and staff and the love and dedication and passion that you bring to our children in our school every day. Oop, I think I just, there we go. And then finally, our culture, you know, from our virtues program, the time that we spend in prayer, forming our faith, the time that we spend as good stewards within our school community, serving our parish and outside of our 4 walls. It's definitely something that is a strength. On the other hand, you know, we definitely see opportunities. You know, one of those is around raising awareness. And you see some of the topics that we've already talked about here tonight, such as enrollment, finances, communication. I think Mrs. Eck, Mrs. Baker, we've talked about those in a lot of different ways, right? And so what it means, what it meant to the board, was just making sure that we have the right forum in place to share information like this, whether it's a meeting, a formal meeting like this, like State of the School, whether it's in the loop, it's the impact report, you know, any number of forums. Our website, you know, we're also going to continue looking for feedback from you all to understand how you'd like to see information. What kinds of things are you interested in learning about? You know, and again, you think about all of these themes, and it was those 4 buckets of questions. I think first was, you know, what do you like most about your school? What would you change about your school was number 2. The third one was, what is your greatest aspiration for your school? And then the 4th was, what is your greatest concern? So as we kind of aggregated all of it, you know, these items came up across all of our common themes. So at the end of the day, I guess from a board perspective, you know, we had a chance to learn a little bit. Mrs. X shared that our goal for enrollment, and this kind of comes along that informative educational piece, that, you know, for enrollment, our goal is 90% retention year over year. We're very pleased, and, you know, as we meet as a board and we talk about this, as we all do, you know, to learn that we've met this goal year over year for the last several years. And, really, I want to thank Christy on behalf of parents and, of course, your school board for everything that you do. I mean, robust is probably not enough of a word to describe all the work that Mrs. Baker does to forward the mission, the transparency, all of those things to get our school name and presence out into the community. And that, that's one of the kinds of things that, as a board, when we talk about communication and information, we look forward to further showcasing all of the good work that's being done for our school. So when we talk about information, right, and it was one of the themes, on the positives and on the opportunities was communication. So really providing visibility to topics that you all have interest in, such as the partnership that we have with the diocese. Of course, we've got the deanery level as well, but how St. Joe's works with the diocese to forward a culture of excellence, to build a vibrant school community. What the school board does, the role of the school board in general, and how we advocate for the mission of the school, and the good work that Mrs. Eck and Mrs. Baker and Father Steve and all of you faculty and staff are doing for our kids. Again, I've said it again and I'll say it another time, showcasing all of the work that Mrs. Baker does to help to recruit and get out the good word about our school in the community, and then, building on what Mrs. Eck has outlined for us in terms of the academic vitality and rigor that we've got going on at our school. So really it's about creating a forum. If I would probably be fibbing to say I had the answer right now, so we do have the In the Loop. We do have information on our website. Now that you know who all the board is, you can talk to any of us, approach any of us at any time to learn about anything that you want, and chances are we'll probably learn something too. Just really creating that forum. We're looking forward to dialoguing more with all of the parents and faculty and staff to understand how we can better hone that feedback loop for communication and learning. So, some of this we've talked about a little bit. So the board really felt it important to review some of the objectives that we have to help to drive visibility about really anything from our school. So, leveraging our school website to inform. Again, we've got In the Loop, we've got things like impact report, meetings like this, but utilizing the website to help to educate and put meaningful information to share with you all. Making sure that in that forum, information is easy to access, easy to find. So that if you've got a question, you don't feel like talking to someone, you know where to go to get it. Identifying additional outreach and faith stewardship opportunities to assist all of you in living our mission. And there's so much already, such as the shoe drive, work that we do for Misericordia, the Missionary Childhood Association, veterans and active service personnel. There's so many projects that the kids are involved in. I'm sure each of you, obviously our faculty drives these programs, and you as parents hear about all of the good things that our kids are doing in school. It's work with the Catholic Harvest Food Pantry. It's even things like our 5th and 6th graders serving at masses, at funerals, singing in the music ministry. All of these different things, kind of beyond even the volunteerism. Kitchen, recess, all of those kinds of things. Just learning about all the opportunities outside of that volunteerism to really promote stewardship. There is just so much, and again, we all look forward to sharing. If you've got questions about any of it, find one of us, ask us. But again, kind of circling back to our commitment as a board to help work to make sure that you've got the avenues and forum at your fingertips so that you can find the information, that you can feel invested in our school community, because it is quite a vibrant community, and we want everyone to make sure that their voice is heard. So that's what I have. Any questions at this point from the board or Mrs. Eck or Father Steve? Anyone? Thank you, Mrs. Eck. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to those two ladies who put all of that together again, using the expertise of the people, and the wisdom is in the room, and using the expertise that we have. We love to have anybody help us and join us in this mission to move St. Joseph's forward. So I am truly honest this time, and letting you know we are finished. But if there are, if you really questions. Remember, I know a lot of times we do these things and then people wait till everybody's kind of moving out and then they come and they ask a question, but sometimes we tell the kiddos this. If you have a question, ask it, because there's maybe 3 or 4 other kids in the room who have the same question, but may not be, willing or able or ready to ask that. So please don't hesitate if there is something. Yes, ma'am.
Are you gonna have another spirit wear sale?
Oh, there you go, Christy. Shall we have another spirit word?
Can you, my sweatshirt's getting worn out.
Yay, wear it everywhere.
Yes, we will definitely do that.
Well, then I will repeat myself. Yes, ma'am.
Will we have that lawn signs for?
We have a
Classroom
few
lawn
lawn signs for enrollment. So we kind of cycled them out and we have some available. Yes, so, yeah, it's great time, and especially for enrollment, to get people thinking about enrolling here. So if you're interested and live on a busy street, I'd love for you to reach out to me so I can get a sign to you for a short time, and then you can bring it back and we'll put it somewhere else, so they're all over. But thank you, great question.
A great thing to do in the New York area. I'd be happy to do it, but I'm not sure it would be too much help from where I'm from. But still, it's on my front door and things like that, but just so people know. Is there anything else that we can do for you tonight? If not, again, thank these wonderful people. And yes, you may dress down tomorrow. And so we will bid everyone a lovely good night, and thank you again for coming out in a dark, dreary, cold January night to hear all this good stuff. Everybody's spiritually lifted. Thank you.